І вже зараз
We continue our series of briefings now. The topic is lawfulness of Central Election Commission and legal system as to infringement upon rights of single-member candidates to be elected as people's deputy, infringement of Maidan, activist right to become members of parliament. Svitlana Karabut, Maidan activist 300, Oleksandr Visnyk, Maidan activist 300, Ganna Kovalenko, Maidan activist 39th. Women's 100, Kateryna Smyrnova, member of coordination board, Kyiv Viche, Petro Suslenskyi, SunDevelopment Director, Petro Klymenko, Officer Maidan activist Anatoliy Zhornovyi, and Anatoliy all failed candidates for the forthcoming election. A good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'd like to be the first, if you don't mind. In fact, we have all encountered the system that is practically discrediting the ruling authorities. And that's how we feel that they oppose those people who want to make some difference. We're all sick and tired of the war and revolution. We understand that we need to do some constructive things and change things because we have clashes with the system on an everyday basis. And there's very little time left. We can beat the judicial system with good lawyers and good cases, but we have 3 weeks before the election, and I don't know about my colleagues, but I come across people who voted on the 16th of January against humanity and humane principles, against us. So no time to find some different toolkit. The time is running. And we have to take this garbage bin and use it. We would like to do it differently, but Mr. Troshenko on the presidential bloc who voted in favor of the anti-Maidan, anti-humanity laws, Mr. Troshenko. And it is very sad that there are some such people on the presidential team also. Ivan Yeshchenko, I am independent, constituency 67. 20 minutes ago, the High Administrative Court cancelled my registration, violating my constitutional right. But this is not the point. Last Saturday, President visited the Zhytomyr armed vehicles plant, and we picketed there. President met 20 people from that picket. And he started with the election. He said he wanted fair and good election. Ask him then, Mr. President, do you know that the Central Election Commission cancelled 1,000 registrations for independent candidates with some excuses? He said not 1,000, but 892 people. He corrected me, and then he said, so he knows the exact number and knows the situation. Then the conversation went against those lines. You understand, he said, if somebody cannot fill out the form properly, how can he draft the laws? So he knows the main principle of such refusal. So they turn us down because they posted that form, and that is unfortunately not in compliance with the law. And they recommended to fill in the form, and that was their trick. And then President said that thus the Central Election Commission, that's the form, you can acquaint yourselves with it. And the Central Election Commission cuts off the technical candidates, they call them. I said, Mr. President, how would they know that I'm a technical candidate? You can see me. How can they see that I'm technical? How can you judge? And he said, he patted me on the shoulder. He said, Ivan, there are very few people like you, about 50. The rest of them they are technical. I said, guys, technical candidates are also citizens of Ukraine, after all. And how can we identify that, determine that? So President is well aware of the situation. My constituency is 67, another candidate. He even knows that in that constituency there's no candidate from his bloc. Poroshenko bloc, and then they gave it away to Svoboda people. He is well aware of that. I've been through this from the very beginning to the very end. Today is the grand finale, but they are really tricksters. I cannot call them anything else. The election commission and the people who would like to come there, we want to have some rotation there. And they are swindlers, and they think that we are just fools to be fooled by the swindlers. This is the High Administrative Court of Appeal and High Administrative Court, and that's the big boss who arranged that and who leads that situation, who takes dividends. This is our president, Mr. Petro Poroshenko. I can tell him this in his face. No fair election. No such thing, because new people who would like to come, we know that 300 odd people, former people's deputies and party of regions, among them, I have doubts the legitimacy of the elections. Let's think who will benefit from it. And we have been through this high administrative court. Where should we find any truth? That was arranged by the president himself as the big boss. He has all the ends in his hand and he just pulls the strings. So we can go to the European Court of Justice, and maybe some activists from Maidan, young people. Let's have 300, 500 of such people and go to the European Court of Justice. Because with the substantiation they gave us at the court, that was all referring to the case law of the European Court of Justice. In my constituency, I have another guy running. On the 27th, he won the case. I copy-pasted his application and just put my name to it. And the decision is the contrary. What kind of a court is that? So there are instruction who should get through and who shouldn't. People from Maidan, some of them, some activists with positive conclusions, maybe they are becoming aware and afraid. And we have to keep pushing to put an end to this lawlessness. I'm Svitlana Karabut from 156th constituency, an independent candidate. I would like to share this news with you. An hour ago, I won my case at the High Administrative Court. In the first instance, I lost. They used some pro forma excuses, like my predecessor here. So in the same situation, they win and lose on the same merits. No explanation to that. I would like to say another thing. The party activists in single mandate constituencies have no registration problems, no technical requirements where they can fail. And independent candidates, they're afraid of us. Many activists who were in the Maidan, who were defending and protecting our country, trying to change something, because we understand that otherwise we cannot do it. The only thing is to come there and start doing the right things, cleaning it up, and making some order. So it's people's purging with the garbage bins and other things will come to the parliament. I am sure we'll be there, and there we will go on fighting using legal means that time. And I would like to congratulate those who have overcome. And I would like to say that many people are halfway through, and they can just get frustrated. And they won't fight any further for their constitutional right, because it's in accordance, strict accordance to the constitution. Any citizen of Ukraine can run an election and be elected. This is our constitutional right. We shall overcome in our respective constituencies, and we will coordinate and keep making order in Ukraine like we did it in the Maidan. Thank you.
We have one more candidate who succeeded in getting registered. I'm Petro Suslenskyi in 223rd constituency. I was registered and I witnessed what's happening in our courts because candidate Pilipishin got registered, but I will start not from that, but we will start from why it is important. We have approximately 3,500 registered candidates. And if you divide by the number of constituencies, it's like 16 persons per constituency. We understand that in reality there are 3-4. So the clones are there, and technical candidates are there to get more votes at the constituency. So we have 700, 800 real candidates, 1 to 4. It's like a competition, and non-registered 900. Approximately half we lost. 50% we cannot vote for them. They will not be in the bulletins. Physically, you will not be able to vote for them. Those for who you can vote, for example, if the person has this right and the person who was registered on the 25th and the person who was registered today, he has 84% more time. We say that 19 days are left to meet the voters to have your election campaign, and they had 25 or 30 days. That's inequality in everything. Then let's talk about how the courts were working now. You go to get registered at the Central Election Committee. There are non-qualified people there who are hired for 2 weeks. They do not understand what they are doing, and they get all your documents. And in the nearest time, they have to explain, give explanation that the person is lacking something. But instead of doing that, they wait for 5 days, and in the end of the 5th day, they refuse. They call some candidates, some others they do not call. How do they select who to call or who not to call? Some candidates are registered where they want, physically at home, without any type of application. I called the CEC. Our constitution is 223. The situation is he sent his assistant to Central Election Committee, and he came with some boss, not with the regular person who is just accepting the documents, but with the head of the department to his hospital where he was, and there's not a single confirmation that that person left the Central Election Committee. But the court, based on one norm that he has the right to be the candidate, did not refuse him in getting registered. In other cases, the courts have different positions. In some courts, restore them as candidates even in the first instance, and they refuse, and some refuse in the first and the second instance. There are some honest judges there, and they take normal decisions. I cannot find any other explanation why some take some illegal decisions and others legal. What to do with that? It would be correct if the election campaign is expanded, and the day of the elections is postponed for 2-3 weeks, because 892 they are to be registered. That's the future of the country. If we cannot vote for them, then we will not be able to get chances. That is fair. Everyone should have a very fair conditions. If the conditions are unfair, they need to be made fair. There's no problem whether the elections are held on the 26th of October, 20th of November. There's no transparency. 50% of the candidates were lost at the beginning, and 80% of those who are registered lost time. What honest elections can we be talking about? So first, our legal team prepared instructions on how the documents are to be taken in the future, when they should check whether there are mistakes, and when should they call back the person. Because now this Central Election Committee is working as a private club. There's no instruction of how they get the documents, how they process them, who has the right to make decisions. They call. Okay, if you don't know the phone where to call, then you fail. Thank you.
Вітаю, мене звуть Клименко Петро Миколайович.
I am Klymenko Petro Mykolaievich. I am one of the candidates, one of these 892. There were two courts. I won the first Kyiv Court of Appeal, and the highest administrative court denied me. Every judge had some special opinion. I have not seen them, but the judges, when they were listening, they were supporting us. But when they were making the ruling, they were hiding their eyes. And then there was this interval for 3 hours, and they were all under the pressure of the Central Election Commission. And talking about my objections to the court, it stated that there are violations of terms of making the resolution of Central Election Committee public. Then there were templates on the website of the Central Election Committee which led to many mistakes. That is provocation. That is a subversive activity which is a challenge to all the democratic system of elections in Ukraine. The result of such mistake is the lost hopes of our voters. Also the working time of the judges, of many people, and even if the Central Election Committee committed just some regular mistake, they have to apologize to correct that mistake, and they have to investigate carefully who submitted this wrong template to the website of the Central Election Committee. But generally, we need to understand that we have not changed the Central Election Committee. Maidan was there, but we have not replaced people in the Central Election Committee. We have not changed the courts. And that is why the system is trying to preserve itself. And they are trying not to let normal, honest people into authorities. Oleksandr Visnyk, coordinator of the 3rd 100 of Self-Defense of Maidan. So the situation is unfortunately one of the main requirements of Maidan. The change of election system has never happened. The system that we have is still a pocket-type system. Thanks to it, the elections can be manipulated, you can promote your own candidates, and these problems that we are facing in the beginning of the election process mean that many victims of Maidan were in vain. And the situation is that the authorities do not need those self-nominees, because self-nominees are like a black horse, and if these are people from Maidan, then no one knows where they will go, what they will do. And why do we need them, these people who no one knows in the parliament? That is why the authorities, with the assistance of the Central Election Committee and the courts, puts all obstacles possible so that the people from Maidan do not get to the parliament. And we have to come in camouflage. We have to bring the waste bin to the Central Election Committee. Then they start being afraid. And we do not, there's no physical influence, but by our physical presence, we force the courts to operate honestly, according to the law, but not like the Central Election Committee would like it. Almost everyone who lost, they were just coming to courts, 2-3 persons from the candidate, and the Central Election Committee could see sheep. They were looking at them as a sheep. We were changing the tactics, we were behaving somewhat differently, and the courts were reacting differently. They were getting afraid, maybe something is threatening them. They were thinking maybe we need somehow to behave according to the law. And unfortunately, that's the situation that we have. But unfortunately, when now the people are registered, we see that we cannot have the full-fledged election campaign, because for that a year of election campaign is needed, not a month, but at least we were in similar conditions. But because of these actions, criminal actions of the system, which unfortunately has not changed, because of that we do not have time left to have a normal campaign and to get into the parliament. No one needs people from Maidan there. No one needs people who are activists there. If you see some activists in the lists of the party, that means that the system is different. They are biased. We cannot say that they are biased. If the person went to some party, this person is biased. But there is some influence on such a person. Such person cannot be there without being influenced. And those self-nominees, they are dangerous for authorities.
They're very dangerous for the authorities. This is a very sad picture. And this is constituency 206. The situation for the society is dangerous in such a way there's certain heat building up, and people are getting together. I know those faces. I can get them together and have a big meeting. The point is that getting them together in a big crowd, I can invite Putin straight to Kyiv. Look at this havoc and come and save us. So this is welcome, Mr. Putin, with your forces, with your troops. And like over the span of 20 years, 20 odd years, has been sabotaging and subverting. And for the volunteers, for young people, and for everyone who they want to bring their sons and daughters back, equip them and provide for them. So we are there, and we would like to fill in the gap on the part of the civil society, very briefly, because we won't have any time for the questions. I'd like to say another very important thing. I understand that we have very little time remaining for the election campaign, but at the stage of registration, the Central Election Commission are doing such things. On the 26th of October, can we discuss any legitimate election? It all starts with the Central Election Commission, the constituency commissions. I can just imagine what will happen there. And then they'll get together and rig and counterfeit. I can imagine the machinations, because they are manually handling it already at the stage of registration. I would like to call upon the people, be very careful when you vote. Vote for the right people and closely watch the election. It should be fair. It should be democratic. Is it really what we were fighting for in the Maidan and the Heavenly Hundred? Maybe they perished in vain. Was it true? The election should be postponed for a month. Everyone should be in equal conditions and should be enjoy and entertain the right to be elected. Another point. We have questions. Georgians of the Maidan. I have a question to the hearing of the Maidan. If you are elected, and when you're elected, please raise the issue. Guided hearing of Maidan, the Crimean Tatar girl who is now imprisoned by the terrorists. We all thought that the Russian fascists executed her, and she is taken prisoner instead, fortunately, so she should be liberated. Her father died a week ago.
Sergei Kutnikov, Umaninform.
Sergei Kutnikov, Umaninform. Your action is quite to the point. Do you plan to do anything, any web resource or blacklist to be posted there for the judicial officials, so officials from the election commission and election commissions in breach of the legislation, for the dummy candidates, like there are two Petro Klymenkos, and the parade of likes, and for the people to know that that's how they educated this person for something on the website, the blacklist, for the public to know.
Я думаю, що ми над цим
I think we will work on this issue, and we will have to do that. We have to fight it jointly. To Peter's lawyer, they turned down your applications because they refer to the recommendations breached and previously posted on the site. As a lawyer, would you think that you had to follow the instructions of the law instead, and how this should be resolved, or can be resolved? Look here. I have this piece of advice to everyone who will act. You should first read the law, and the regulations just follow. The law sets the rules. All the instructions, all the recommendation materials are absolute. Samples are all out of date, so before you do anything, read the law carefully. So if you do that according to the law, it is impossible to undermine one's application. Well, there are some excuses. Even there are some mistakes, they should be corrected, or errors for that matter. This is an application. It is valid anyway. It should be turned down on such merits. Cancellation of registration has nothing to do with the application and its contents. One important thing, there's this exhaustive list of documents where the Central Election Commission can accept the package. They turn it down because it's incomplete, something is irregular, the background note is something, and they fall under the claim that they accepted 800 packages on false grounds. So they can accept that, having checked everything, nationality, such and such particulars. So accordingly, they should not accept such documents and refuse registration immediately. And they waited for 5 days, and they just cheated on people. I said it in court today. They put their name to the fact that they accepted my application for 5 days. It was the election commission became a laughing stock. They cannot let me exercise my constitutional right because of that. We have to fight for to postpone the elections, like that presidential election in one round. So what happened? We had the presidential election in one round. So we should all be in equal conditions. All the people who did that, we should all be in equal conditions. Thank you very much. Thank you for raising this issue on the part of the Central Election Commission. A lot of arbitrary behavior we see on the part of the Central Election Commission. Thank you for coming.